Hey everyone, the story that follows unfolds at the speed of fate and the weight of silence. A rise shaped by money and a fall measured by loyalty. This narration opens with urgency because everything changed in a single moment, and the echoes of that moment would test blood ties, unravel masks, and crown a quiet observer into a ruler of her own truth. A brief pause for those listening now, a reminder delivered through narration alone that support fuels these stories, and that attention is the currency that keeps this dominion alive. With that understood, the journey begins and all are welcomed into Black Queen Dominion. The 12 million arrived without fireworks, without applause, and without warning. It settled into existence like a shadow at noon, undeniable and heavy. It came from a distant inheritance, a name barely spoken in family gatherings, a relative remembered only when nostalgia demanded a face. Legal papers carried the truth in dry ink, confirming a transformation that no celebration could soften. Wealth did not enter with joy, it entered with clarity. The narrator's subject, a woman shaped by years of quiet endurance, understood instantly that money was never just money. It was a mirror. Before the windfall, life moved in predictable rhythms. Family gatherings followed a familiar script of subtle dismissals, borrowed expectations, and the constant measurement of worth against success. Support had always been conditional, offered when convenient, withdrawn when costly. The subject had learned to survive on self-reliance, to build resilience where affection was rationed. $12 million did not erase that history, it illuminated it. The first instinct was silence. No announcements were made, no celebrations staged. The wealth was tucked away behind layers of anonymity and careful planning. Financial advisors were consulted under strict confidentiality, assets diversified, and a separate identity constructed to protect the core truth. The subject understood that revelation would contaminate observation. To test loyalty, the test had to be invisible. The plan was simple in structure and ruthless in execution. Life would appear unchanged. Requests would be made modestly, favors asked carefully, opportunities offered without revealing the source of power behind them. Each family member would be observed in moments of perceived scarcity, not abundance. The test was not about generosity, it was about character under assumption. The first weeks passed with deliberate normalcy. Visits continued, calls were answered, routines maintained. The subject listened more than ever, collecting patterns like evidence. Complaints about money surfaced casually, often paired with subtle expectations. The family spoke freely, unaware that the listener now possessed the means to solve every problem mentioned. That restraint became the first trial of power, the discipline to watch without intervening. Soon small experiments began. A fabricated financial setback was mentioned, framed as temporary but stressful. The reaction was immediate and telling. Advice flowed freely but assistance did not. Sympathy appeared polished yet hollow, wrapped in reminders of personal responsibility. The subject noted every pause, every deflection, every suggestion that hardship built character when it was not their own. Another test followed, this time involving opportunity. A modest business idea was shared, requiring minimal support and promising shared benefit. The response revealed priorities with brutal efficiency. Some family members dismissed the idea outright, unwilling to risk even symbolic involvement. Others expressed interest only if control and credit were guaranteed. The subject observed the language of entitlement emerge effortlessly, like a reflex practiced over years. As weeks turned into months, the pattern solidified. Loyalty was transactional. Affection was performance-based. Respect fluctuated with perceived utility. The subject felt no anger, only confirmation. Wealth had not changed people. It had simply given the observer the vantage point to see clearly. Yet the most painful realization came not from rejection but from expectation. Certain family members began to lean heavier, not with requests but with assumptions. Time was demanded. Emotional labor was expected. Boundaries were tested casually, as if the subject's existence served as a resource to be drawn from endlessly. The irony lay in their ignorance of the actual wealth present, making their entitlement even more revealing. Internally, the subject transformed. Confidence replaced doubt. Silence sharpened into strategy. The Black Queen did not announce her reign, she prepared it. Each interaction was catalogued, not with bitterness but with precision. Loyalty was being measured not by grand gestures but by consistency, empathy, and respect when nothing was promised in return. A natural pause settles here where silence still protects power, and the Black Queen prepares to step forward. Where nothing appears changed on the surface, yet everything beneath has shifted irrevocably. The subject continues her careful observation, now guided by certainty rather than curiosity. The test is no longer exploratory, it is confirmatory. Each interaction now serves to validate what has already been revealed. Family dynamics grow more complex as time stretches on. Familiar roles intensify. The critic becomes sharper, sensing weakness where none exists. The dependent grows heavier, mistaking patience for obligation. The opportunist circles closer, testing boundaries with casual invasions masked as concern. The subject responds with consistency, offering neither excess nor absence, maintaining a neutral presence that invites authenticity from others. Financial conversations increase in frequency, as if drawn magnetically toward the subject. Complaints evolve into comparisons. Subtle guilt is deployed, framed as humor or nostalgia. The subject notes how often past sacrifices are mentioned, how easily memory is weaponized to justify present expectations. The irony remains intact. Those who speak of fairness do so only when it benefits them. A new layer of the test emerges through controlled generosity. Small, non-monetary assistance is offered, measured and deliberate. Time, effort, and emotional support are extended in ways that cost nothing financially but require appreciation. The responses vary dramatically. Gratitude appears fleeting. Entitlement solidifies quickly. Boundaries are challenged almost immediately, revealing how swiftly kindness is reclassified as duty. One family member stands out briefly, offering consistency without expectation. The subject notes this anomaly with interest, recognizing that loyalty is not loud. It does not perform. It remains steady even when unrewarded. This observation becomes crucial, a reminder that the test is not about universal betrayal but about discernment. Internally, the subject's transformation deepens. The weight of secrecy grows heavier not from fear but from anticipation. Power held too long demands expression. Yet timing remains everything. The Black Queen understands that revelation too early would dilute impact, while delay too long would corrode purpose. Balance is required, and patience remains her sharpest weapon. As months progress, subtle changes in family behavior suggest an unconscious awareness. Some sense distance and react with aggression. Others attempt charm offensives, increasing contact without cause. The subject observes these shifts without reaction, allowing them to expose motivations organically. Desperation, it seems, does not require knowledge of wealth to manifest. It only requires perceived loss of control. The test reaches a critical juncture when a fabricated crisis is introduced. The subject presents a scenario requiring collective support, not financial rescue but unified effort. The response fractures instantly. Excuses multiply. Priorities rearrange conveniently. The subject watches as coordination fails, as promises dissolve under minimal pressure. The result is definitive. This moment seals the outcome. Loyalty, when tested without incentive, has failed overwhelmingly. The subject experiences not heartbreak but liberation. Expectation dissolves, replaced by clarity. Family is no longer defined by blood but by behavior. The Black Queen's dominion sharpens its borders. Legal structures are finalized. Public narratives are drafted. The subject rehearses not speeches but silence, understanding that the most powerful statements require no explanation. The unveiling will not seek validation. It will establish reality. The subject no longer observes from the shadows. She orchestrates from above. The decision to reveal the truth is not emotional, not impulsive, but strategic. Every test has been completed. Every pattern has been logged. What remains is not revenge born of anger, but consequence delivered with elegance. This is the chapter where silence becomes a statement. The reveal is not announced dramatically. There is no grand confession or emotional plea. Instead, it unfolds through inevitability. Changes begin to surface subtly, first as rumors, then as undeniable facts. A new address appears, secured under a corporate entity. Financial records quietly shift. Associations with institutions and advisors become visible to those paying attention. The subject allows the world to notice what she never spoke aloud. Family members sense it before they understand it. Behavior shifts rapidly. The casual dismissals soften. The entitlement recalibrates into politeness. The critic grows cautious. The opportunist becomes attentive. None of this is prompted by truth. It is prompted by suspicion. The subject watches this evolution with clinical interest, recognizing how quickly respect adjusts when power is suspected, even without confirmation. Then confirmation arrives, not through words but through visibility. A public record surfaces. An investment announcement circulates. The subject's name appears where it never had before, attached to figures that silence rooms. $12 million is no longer a secret. It is a fact. And facts once known cannot be negotiated with. The reaction is immediate and chaotic. The family recalibrates in real time, scrambling to reinterpret history. Past interactions are mentally revised, kindness retroactively assigned, neglect conveniently forgotten. The subject becomes the axis around which narratives spin. She observes this revisionism without interference, understanding that truth does not require correction when behavior speaks louder than memory. Requests begin almost instantly, some subtle, others audacious. Old conversations are referenced with new significance. Casual comments are reframed as support. The subject responds uniformly, with distance. Not coldness but clarity. Access is restricted. Availability becomes selective. The Black Queen does not explain her boundaries, she enforces them. One by one, family members attempt entry into the new reality. Some approach with guilt masked as affection. Others with entitlement polished into confidence. A few attempt manipulation, leveraging shared blood as collateral. None succeed. The subject has already conducted the trial. The verdict was delivered long before the reveal. The most striking transformation occurs within the subject herself. The weight she carried for years dissolves. Not because of wealth but because of validation. The test confirmed what intuition had whispered all along. Loyalty could not be purchased and it was never owed. This realization is freeing. The Black Queen's dominion is no longer defensive. It is expansive. A defining moment arrives when the subject hosts a carefully curated gathering. Attendance is limited. Purpose is ambiguous. The event is not a celebration of wealth but a demonstration of control. Those invited represent different outcomes of the test. Observation continues, now under new conditions. The subject watches how quickly behavior changes when stakes are perceived as high. The results are revealing. Gratitude feels performative. Curiosity outweighs concern. Conversations orbit around potential benefit rather than genuine connection. The subject notes how easily access is mistaken for intimacy. This final observation completes the arc of understanding. The test is no longer about loyalty, it is about self-respect. One figure stands apart, the same anomaly noted earlier. This individual remains unchanged, neither impressed nor intimidated. Their consistency confirms the earlier observation. Loyalty does not evolve with circumstance. It exists independently of reward. The subject acknowledges this silently, marking the first exception in a sea of confirmations. As the chapter progresses, consequences begin to solidify. Financial boundaries are codified legally. Trusts are structured with conditions that reflect observed behavior. Influence is redistributed away from bloodlines and toward merit. The subject's wealth becomes a tool for alignment, not obligation. Those who failed the test are not punished. They are simply excluded. The family reacts predictably. Resentment simmers beneath forced smiles. Entitlement mutates into bitterness. Accusations of change surface, irony unrecognized. The subject does not respond. She understands that clarity often feels like cruelty to those accustomed to access without accountability. Internally, the Black Queen steps fully into her identity. The dominion is no longer metaphorical. It is reflected in decisions, posture, and presence. She no longer seeks approval or fears isolation. Wealth did not create this confidence. It revealed it. The test was never about them. It was about her. The subject withdraws from unnecessary contact, choosing solitude over conditional connection. The reveal has completed its purpose. Loyalty has been measured. Truth has been exposed. What remains is construction, the building of a future aligned with reality rather than hope. where noise has faded and reality has settled into place. The chaos of discovery has passed, replaced by a quieter, more dangerous phase. This is the stage where consequences take shape not through confrontation but through absence. The subject no longer needs to assert power. It is now assumed. Silence becomes the language of authority. Family reactions evolve from shock into strategy. Initial attempts at access give way to calculated patience. Messages become carefully worded. Invitations are extended with exaggerated warmth. Apologies surface, not anchored in understanding but in timing. The subject observes these gestures from a distance, recognizing patterns refined by necessity rather than sincerity. Nothing offered now carries the weight it pretends to have. The Black Queen does not respond impulsively. Each interaction is filtered through memory, through months of observation conducted before wealth was known. This timeline matters. Behavior after revelation is irrelevant to the test. True loyalty exists before reward, not after. This principle becomes the foundation of every decision that follows. Financial structures finalize quietly. Trusts are activated. Legal documents become the silent enforcers of judgment. Assets are allocated not to preserve family harmony, but to protect intention. The subject ensures that access to wealth aligns with values, not bloodlines. Those who once assumed entitlement now encounter immovable boundaries, enforced without explanation. The absence of confrontation unsettles more than anger ever could. There are no arguments to win, no narratives to challenge. The family is left to wrestle with ambiguity, to question whether they failed a test they never knew they were taking. This uncertainty becomes its own consequence. Reflection replaces entitlement, though often too late. The subject's public life expands deliberately. Philanthropic efforts emerge, not as image management but as alignment. Causes reflecting personal history and values receive support. The Black Queen redirects energy once drained by family expectations into impact that resonates beyond blood. Purpose replaces obligation. Privately, the subject experiences an unfamiliar stillness. The emotional labor once demanded relentlessly is gone. In its place is clarity, space, and self-respect. This is not loneliness, it is peace. The difference is profound. The test, it turns out, was as much about internal liberation as external evaluation. One family member attempts a final maneuver, a public appeal disguised as vulnerability. The subject does not respond. The lack of reaction communicates everything words never could. Power once understood does not need defense. The Black Queen's dominion thrives on restraint. The anomaly, the one consistent presence, remains quietly connected. There are no demands, no expectations. This relationship deepens organically, built on mutual respect rather than convenience. The subject recognizes that loyalty, when genuine, does not seek recognition. It simply exists. As weeks turn into months, the family's behavior stabilizes into resignation. Some relationships fade entirely. Others linger at a safe distance, stripped of illusion. The subject accepts these outcomes without regret. The test was fair. The results were earned. The storm has long passed, and what remains is a landscape reshaped by truth. The subject no longer stands in reaction to anyone else. The test has concluded, the results integrated, and the future now unfolds on her own terms. This is not an ending marked by victory over others, but by sovereignty over self. Time creates distance, and distance brings perspective. The family that once occupied emotional center stage now exists at the edges, their influence diminished not by punishment but by irrelevance. The subject no longer measures her worth through their approval or disappointment. Wealth did not grant this freedom, clarity did. The $12 million merely accelerated a realization that was inevitable. The Black Queen's dominion matures into legacy. Investments align with vision rather than validation. Businesses are structured to outlive impulse, built on principles refined through observation and restraint. Each decision reflects a lesson learned during the silent test. Power must serve purpose or it becomes another form of dependency. The subject's public presence grows but remains controlled. Visibility is used strategically, never performatively. Success speaks without explanation. Those who once dismissed her now observe from afar, unable to reconcile the past version they underestimated with the present reality they cannot access. The irony is complete. Philanthropy expands quietly, targeting spaces once denied to her. Education, independence, and empowerment become recurring themes. The Black Queen understands that revenge is temporary, but impact is permanent. By lifting others without demanding loyalty in return, she redefines power on her own terms. The relationship with the one loyal figure deepens into chosen family. This bond, forged without tests or rewards, becomes proof that loyalty does not need to be engineered. It emerges naturally when respect replaces expectation. This connection anchors the subject, reminding her that solitude and connection are not opposites but choices. Reflection replaces resentment entirely. The subject looks back on the test not with regret but with gratitude. Without it, illusions might have lingered. The test did not break the family, it revealed them. And revelation, though painful, is always preferable to deception. The Black Queen no longer identifies herself through conflict. Her story evolves from survival to authorship. She is no longer reacting to circumstances but creating them. The dominion she rules is internal first, unshaken by opinion or entitlement. External success follows naturally. In the final moments, the subject stands fully realized. She does not announce her triumph. She does not seek closure from those who failed her. Closure is internal, achieved through understanding rather than apology. The $12 million changed everything not because of what it bought but because of what it exposed. The story ends where it truly began, with a woman who trusted her instincts, honored her observations, and chose herself without apology. The test of loyalty is complete. The Black Queen has ascended not above others but beyond them, ruling a dominion defined by truth, intention, and unbreakable self-respect.